Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. If you can just please confirm, we have 175 people watching. This is a very important live stream for all of you to understand and comprehend. And it's not going to be long. I don't want to take longer than 30 minutes. Hopefully, it can be sooner than that. So, yes, this is for everyone. So, this is not just for channel members. So, anyone can watch this video. So, please share the link so that your friends and family can also watch. This is very important. But welcome to all of you here. And as you can see, what I'll be discussing today is the law and the mandate. And you would have seen an avalanche of articles all over mainstream media that's owned by the four families that control our country: the Ruperts, the Oppenheimers, the Beckers, and Visa. These people have invested a lot of money, especially the Ruperts and Becker, in controlling the media in the country and being able to put out very specific narratives so that only one narrative is clear. And that is very one-sided. And this is one thing I want to discuss with you today, and then how the laws of the country, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights have been set up to fail us so that we absolutely do not stand a chance. Even if we go to court and we try and use our interpretation of the law and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, use it for our own benefit, and we should absolutely do this. And Reino de Beer is busy doing exactly that. And I hope you watch his last video that came out today. If you haven't, please go and watch the last video. Just search Reino de Beer on YouTube. Go and subscribe and watch his last video, where he does an expose of how the legal system is captured the same way many other companies and infrastructure, etc., in this country has been captured for a very, very long time. And you will be able to see how it's going to be an uphill battle. And I had a discussion with Reino earlier, and he said clearly that we might not win in court, but if we don't, it means that every South African knows for sure how captured the system is. Through that process, we prove to the people that we need system change, that we need drastic system change, and this process is necessary. So this is why I want you to support Reino. But I will tell you now what these people are going to do to you and how they are going to try and take your freedoms away. Not just try, but how they can be successful by using the Constitution and the law. And I will explain to you how they will try to achieve this just by using the African Union, using the United Nations, using the Constitution of South Africa, and all the acts, etc., that go with it. And I've said in detail before that our Constitution has Trojan horses built into it. And it's these Trojan horses that make all the difference. And all you have to do is go into News 24. And why News 24? It is owned by Naspers, Koos Becker and his team, who have made sure that they control the mainstream media thoughts. You go and put in vaccine mandates, and you do a search. And all of a sudden, you will get all the information you need, because many of these articles you might not see straight away when you go in there. Okay, a lot of them might not be on the front page. You might have to go search for them. So you put in vaccine mandates, and then you start getting a whole host of articles. Friday briefing, are forced jabs coming? Experts unpack constitutionality of vaccine mandates. And I'm going to cover one of these articles specifically, and it's very important that you understand what this person is telling you. And this is an advocate from Johannesburg, okay? And the specific article is Ben Winks, does the Constitution allow compulsory vaccination? And he says, yes, it commands it. And he gives reasons for that. Okay, let's continue. And this is his interpretation. And I want you to understand what spin will be used and why anyone telling you that the law will save us, okay, why they are wrong. And why Reino de Beer's approach is the right one, saying that these are our interpretations, this is how we will challenge it in court. And then, if those court challenges do not work, you know for a fact that the entire judicial system was captured from the very beginning. And it's not a secret that we know that this is the case. The fact that the law, that these people say, but this is our law, this is our constitution. And a lot of people will say, but you can't say the constitution is bad. It's like the holy grail of holy grails with regards to constitutions in the world. Rubbish. Our constitution is a severe problem. And the simple problem is this. In our constitution, it puts protection of life over freedom to choose. And because that was the mindset from the onset, the Bavarian Illuminati doctrine of greater good ideology is throughout the Constitution. And by default, throughout many of our laws, this whole greater good concept. Then Ibrahim Harvey, public health versus individual rights. Why COVID-19 vaccine mandates are imperative. Kate Alexander, vaccine mandates are not a panacea, but she says they should still happen. Safura Abdul Karim, low COVID-19 vaccine uptake are mandates the answer, and is it constitutional? She absolutely says that it's not only constitutional, but that it has to happen. Okay. And, if you start reading this article and this Friday briefing, okay, of forced jabs coming, they in this Friday briefing, they give you links to all of these articles, and a lot of people are reading these. And what they are is, we absolutely should force vaccination on people, that it's happened before and it has to happen again. And people that don't understand this don't understand what is coming. And here they have subbits of these articles. Does the Constitution allow compulsory vaccination? Yes, it commands it. This is Ben Winks' take, and I'm going to deal with this article specifically. Our Constitution requires the state not only to respect our rights, but also to protect, promote, and fulfill them. Ben Winks writes that in light of this, the government is not only entitled, but obliged to take active steps to contain and eradicate COVID-19, which includes implementing a policy of compulsory vaccination. Now, this is his take. This is not my take. And this is the take that is in the mainstream media at the moment, that has driven people to vaccination centers to get vaccinated. I want you to understand what is happening here. The next, public health versus individual rights. Why COVID-19 vaccine mandates are imperative. This is by Ibrahim Harvey. COVID-19 variant 0 micron, as I call it, was perhaps a blessing in disguise because it immediately gave rise to many strong views in the public on the need for mandatory vaccinations in some respect to curb its spread. So they are saying that this was a blessing because now very conveniently they can mandate vaccines. Low COVID-19 vaccine uptake are mandates the answer, and is it constitutional? Safura Abdul Karim actually says that mandates isn't sufficient. So mandate should happen, but we should do a lot more than that. And says that it's absolutely constitutional. If the government decides to implement the COVID-19 vaccine mandate, it will have to decide what type of mandate it will adopt and who it will affect. Because she says it's not enough to just mandate vaccines. Then COVID-19 vaccine mandate, go through Parliament or use Disaster Management Act. Employees have used the Occupational Health and Safety Act as well as the Mine Health and Safety Act as the legal instrument to enforce a vaccine mandate in the workplace. However, the government will have to consider another route if it is going to consider a mandate for the wider population, writes Johannesburg advocate Dr. Nyoko Mavungua. Now, to understand this mindset that's coming forth within News24, which is the largest online news publication, you need to understand the detail of these articles. Okay. And if you look at the article, and some of them are for subscribers to News24, and I am subscribed so that I can dissect what is being put out into public. And it's seen as the mainstream publication very specifically. Does the Constitution allow compulsory vaccination? Yes, it commands it. So this is going out into the public. There's a picture of a nurse sitting, vaccinating a young child. And there it says compulsory vaccination is not only the most effective, but indeed a necessary measure to protect our rights to life, health, movement, economic freedom, and access to public services, writes the author, which means that he is arguing that you can only be free once you are vaccinated. So what is the price, okay, of a vaccine? Your freedom of choice. And a lot of people will not consider this, that you cannot even buy freedom with any amount of money in the world at the moment, but that you can only buy your freedom through an act or through loyalty or through an ideology. And you need to seriously consider what that means. And I continue. Our constitution requires a state not only to respect our rights, but also to protect, promote, and fulfill them. Last Sunday, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that his government is now taking steps towards introducing measures that make COVID-19 vaccination a condition for access to workplaces, public events, public transport, and public establishments. And you will see in his entire argument, he does not consider anyone that has an ulterior belief at all. In other words, his belief is the correct one. End of story. There is no other debate. And I want you to understand the language that is being used, because that kind of language is being used throughout all these articles. Despite the overwhelming evidence that the freely available COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective in significantly reducing the risk of infection, severe illness, and death, South Africa suffers, as he says, from alarming levels of hesitancy and apathy towards taking the jab. Now, those of you that listened to Reino de Beer's video today, and those of you that haven't, I'll put a link to it in the description below this video. You'll also get a link to all these articles below this video. And Reino said very specifically that if you use Section 36 of the Constitution, that it needs to be a law for the majority of people. In this case, the majority of people to take our freedom away. The majority of people have not been vaccinated. So they've chosen not to be vaccinated. The government knows this. They know they have to get us past 50%. And I've spoken about this in the past, that once you get past the 50% mark, everything changes and the Constitution starts to help them even more. Okay? So he says that we suffer from alarming levels of hesitancy and apathy towards taking the jab. Now, he's not questioning that. He is saying that these people are crazy, basically, and that what they believe is wrong. End of story. He doesn't debate any of that. He's not interested in that. Many have been calling on the government to make vaccinations compulsory for everyone. Many. What does many mean? When the majority of people have not done that. The majority of South Africans. So the language being used here is extremely subversive. And then in brackets, by compulsory, nobody seriously means that the state should subject anyone to forcible, and this is the key, forcible injections or imprisonment, but rather should exclude unvaccinated people from certain public facilities and spaces. Okay. And I have said to you in the past that no one will be forced to take a vaccine. Nobody. The state will never do that. Never. There's a lot worse that they can do to you. And this is exactly what is starting to happen now. So he's saying unvaccinated people need to be excluded from certain public facilities and spaces. Opponents argue that this is unconstitutional, as it violates unvaccinated people's rights to freedom of movement and access to public services like education, or else forces them to forfeit their rights to privacy, bodily integrity, and possibly freedom of religion, belief, and opinion. I disagree, he says. Okay. And now he's going to tell you why he disagrees, and I want you to listen carefully, because he has meticulously gone and given you the argument that's going to be used in court, because his people have prepared the argument already. I will include a link to an article where it says vaccine passports may start in early 2022. And South Africa to introduce mandatory vaccine policy in early 2022. I'm not going to cover those articles now. I will attach them so that you can go and read them in the description below this video, as well as in the first comment. So, Benwings continue, and I want you all to go and read this, and I'll probably copy and paste this whole thing for you so that you can read it in the first or second comment. Okay. I hope there's enough letters available. I think it only allows 5,000. So he says he disagrees with the people that say that they have a right to freedom. No right is absolute. Now, listen and understand what he is saying, because this is not just a South African thing. This is a worldwide thing. And what you are going to hear now is Bavarian Illuminati doctrine as it comes out of Adam Weishaupt's script to a T. Our Constitution has an expansive Bill of Rights that enshrines not only classic civil liberties but also socio-economic rights. Okay, the state has the duty not only to respect these rights, that is, to refrain from interfering with them, but also to take positive steps to protect, promote, and fulfill them. The various fundamental rights often come into conflict. That is why no one right is absolute, not under our Constitution. And this is where people get fooled. They read something that is a right in the Constitution, they believe they have that right. Nonsense. It doesn't work that way. Under our Constitution, any right may be limited in a manner that is reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society founded on human dignity, equality, and freedom. It may be necessary to limit one right to safeguard another. So who decides, in the typical Bavarian Illuminati way, which right should remain and which right should be taken? Who will make the higher decision? Well, this guy believes he knows better than the rest of us. Okay. For example, he gives an example. It is justifiable to limit one's freedom of movement by regulating licenses for the driving of motor vehicles in order to protect not only others' rights to life and bodily integrity, but also the right to freedom of movement, which is impaired by others' poor driving. So he uses a driver's license as an equation to what is happening with COVID-19. Him not wanting you to go to hospitals and all sorts of other things. Okay, the man is demented, but we will continue. Remember, you need to understand their mindset. This is not just the mindset of a South African advocate. This is the mindset across the world with regards to this. And the sooner you understand how they think, the better for you, because you have taken the view that is convenient for you instead of the view that makes you realize what's going to be happening to you if you do not take the right steps or take the right action. In respect of COVID-19, vaccine refusers' purported exercise of their individual freedom has a serious impact on the right of others with whom they coexist in various social, residential, commercial, and professional communities. So he's saying that the unvaccinated people are limiting other people's rights. Okay, this is his interpretation, and he has a right to that. The problem is the majority of people in South Africa does not have this opinion, but they are trying to make us think that this is the case. By exposing themselves to higher risk of infection, they risk infecting others. This threatens others' rights to life and bodily integrity. And now he's getting to the key. Because in our Constitution, the right to life is above your freedom or your liberty. And this has to change. If we do not change the Constitution, this will continue happening to us. And by exposing themselves to higher risk of hospitalization, they not only jeopardize healthcare workers' lives, they also burden the healthcare system unduly and thus impinge on other people's access to healthcare services. Now, what about other people with communicable diseases, with diseases that spread that goes to hospital? Are they being treated the same way? No, I can have so many arguments against what this person is saying, but that is not the point of this live stream. The point of this live stream is for you to understand what we are up against. By going to work, university, restaurant, shops, or concerts, unvaccinated people impair the right of others to attend these places safely. So they're saying that your presence makes other people unsafe. Compulsory vaccination against other diseases such as polio, smallpox, and measles has been established in most schools, including public schools, for many years without constitutional complaint. Okay, now he is pussyfooting around this because he's not actually sure about the legality of his statement. That is very clear. This obviously limits the right to basic education, leaving anti-vaccination families to homeschool or find schools that accept unvaccinated children. But this limitation is vital to safeguard the right of other children, teachers, support staff, and society at large to be safe from life-threatening diseases. This is his position. That position is not proven in a court of law, and the problem is no court of law will test that position. And I'll get to the end of this live stream. I will get to the crux, because that is the crux of it. Our courts have already decided to follow the World Health Organization, believe the World Health Organization, because we are a United Nations member state. They accept us. They will not challenge in court or accept a challenge in court against what these international non-elected organizations tell us, because we are signed member states of the UN, and we're a member state. The government will absolutely believe everything the World Health Organization tell them, whether right or wrong. And that's not what we are debating here. So, rights and duties. Now they are talking about the duties of citizens. Okay. This is seamlessly consistent with human rights law and theory worldwide. And I'm glad that he says that this is a worldwide concept, okay? Which is always appreciated, that rights are tempered by responsibilities. In other words, with your rights and your freedoms comes responsibility. I say there should come consequence. For someone to demand the responsibility from you is a huge problem, and we need to change this concept in the Constitution. Let's continue. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the nascent United Nations in 1948, declared that, and he quotes, "Everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible." Close quote. So he is using that from the United Nations to say that this gives people the right to take your freedoms away. Accordingly, any right may be limited for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others, and of meeting the just requirements of morality, public order, and the general welfare in a democratic society. Close quote. The interesting thing is, who makes that decision? And this is why in my Double O Days tour and in my meetings across the country, I made clear that the Bavarian Illuminati way was that the person with the highest intellect within that society, whether it's AI or a human, will make the decisions for the rest. And the rest will follow those decisions. This man is speaking Bavarian Illuminati speak in detail. Okay. And this is coming from the United Nations in 1948. And as I've said before, the United Nations is 100% a Bavarian Illuminati organization that is promoting the greater good ideology over individual freedom. And these Trojan horses have been built into constitutions and law across the world. Even the 1966 International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the most individual-centric of the international human rights treaties, recognize that rights may be limited, and I quote, to protect national security, public order, public health, or morals, or the rights and freedoms of others. And this is where it becomes a problem, because when the majority of people believe that they want the freedom to go around unvaccinated, etc., then how can you use this international law when the minority have been vaccinated? Do you understand the problem here? Because now what this tells you is that Bavarian Illuminati doctrine is now being used, because now the most intellectual or highest placed person will decide for you, and they will then coerce the majority into doing something they freely do not want to do. There are many people in the country that I know of that have been vaccinated to keep their jobs that did not want to be vaccinated. The 1981, and this gets better now, African Charter on Human and People's Rights has a similar qualification and declares that everyone has, and I quote, duties towards his family and society, the state, and other legally recognized communities, and the international community. It says that you have a duty towards the state. You have a duty towards the international community. I don't know anything more Adam Weishaupt-like or Bavarian Illuminati-like than that statement. The rights, I continue the quote, the rights and freedoms of each individual shall be exercised with due regard to the rights of others, collective security, morality, and common interest. There you have the common good ideology being written into African Union law. The notion that an individual has unfettered freedom to exercise rights without consideration for the rights of others is thus wholly alien to human rights law and theory. And this is normal. You do have to consider other people's rights. The problem that they face now is this is a medical decision being made. And the irony is that some people believe, and they have a right to believe that or not, and I'm not going to give my opinion on that the vaccine will harm them. So they believe in not taking it because they believe it could influence their life, in which case the same argument can be used for them. So what is different here is the fact that these people are saying that the most enlightened, right at the top of the pyramid, at the top of the Bavarian Illuminati pyramid, that those people will decide for the rest. There is no democracy in this. And this is what people need to understand. Now he says, is compulsory vaccination allowed by the Constitution? And then I will wrap up. This is very important to understand. In my view, he says this, in my view, just like Reino earlier said, the position of Liberty Fighters Network is this. He's saying in his view, it is reasonable and justifiable to exclude the unvaccinated from any and all public services and gatherings. Their rights to jeopardize their own health do not trump the rights of others to have their health protected. He's stuck with one problem. He's talking to the majority of South Africans under these circumstances. That can change soon. If most people change their minds and they actually run to get vaccinated because they're scared that Christmas is going to be taken away because of the 0 micron situation, then once we pass that 50% barrier, everything changes. And I've made that very clear in the past. This exclusion may mean that unvaccinated people are placed effectively in indefinite lockdown, at least until the pandemic passes. And this person is happy for this to happen. Think what that means. This indeed seriously limits their freedom of movement among other rights. But if the alternative is to place everyone in lockdown to mitigate the spread of the virus, then it would be unreasonable and unjustifiable to limit the movement and economic freedoms of those who are vaccinated. So he is assuming that if you are vaccinated, that you will have all your civil liberties and freedoms. And I could probably make another live stream just based on that. How has that worked out for people in many countries that are now on their 3rd and 4th vaccine? Think, people. So yes, the Constitution does allow the state to exclude unvaccinated people from any public parks, beaches, schools, and universities. The exception is hospitals, in his opinion. But remember, B4SA said hospitals should be included. Even though they will be jeopardizing the lives of healthcare workers and other patients, the Constitution is clear that nobody may refuse emergency medical treatment. Not normal medical treatment, emergency medical treatment. And the unvaccinated will need it. Private institutions and individuals have even more freedom than the government to exclude unvaccinated people. Vaccination status is not a prohibited ground of discrimination like race, sex, or HIV status. He makes this clear. So anyone, in his opinion, that wants to use discrimination, he's saying, no, you can't use discrimination because vaccination status is not discrimination like race, sex, or HIV status. Then the last heading, before I end off with this article, is compulsory vaccination commanded by the Constitution? So he goes one step further. I would take the point even further, he says. As our Constitution requires the state not only to respect our rights, but also to protect, promote, and fulfill them, the government is not only entitled, but obliged to take active steps to contain and eradicate COVID-19. The African Charter proclaims that everybody has the right to enjoy the best attainable state of physical and mental health, close quote. And the state must, I quote again, take the necessary measures to protect the health of their people, close quote. Now, this is a huge problem. The state should never be responsible for your health or your life. If we do not change this in the constitution, tyranny will reign forever. And this is why I say constitutional change is the only way out of this. This is a binding obligation, he says. It is not only permissible, but constitutionally imperative for the state to pursue it. Compulsory vaccination is not only the most effective, and this is his opinion, but indeed a necessary measure to protect our rights to life, health, movement, economic freedom, and access to public services. And I ask him again, how has that worked for other countries? Because there are now people that are saying that have been vaccinated, that have taken all these steps, and now more lockdowns are coming. They must still wear their masks. They don't have the freedoms they want. And they're saying, but this deal is fraught with problems because what you promised us, we are not getting. And this obviously, that hasn't sunk in yet with him. Drastic as it may seem, he finishes off, the Constitution commands the government to take this measure. Ben Winks is an advocate based in Johannesburg. So people, there you have the best example laid out of what is coming our way. The best example. So think about what that means. We have over 700 people watching. I really want to thank you for joining this live stream because this is important to understand. When I end this live stream, and I'm going to end soon, I will give you the links to all these articles. Go and read them and understand what it means. Now, the mainstream media is going to spin this narrative into ad nauseum over the next couple of days and weeks. And many people might be frightened and line up at the vaccination stations, and it's their choice. Just understand that if we are to remain free in this country, the first thing you need to do is prepare yourself for any eventuality. You need to have enough food and water storage, at least 3 months minimum, so that you have options. And then we need to mobilize. As long as we are the majority, there's a lot that can be done. A lot that can be done. And I want you to support Reino de Beer, help him to make these court cases possible, where we prove all these things that this advocate says. Let's prove it in the High Court. Let's prove it in the Concord so that you can see where you stand for real. Let's not just go on a piece of writing. Let's test the intention of the bench in the Concord. Let's test the intention of the bench in the High Court so you can see with your own eyes where we find ourselves. And let me tell you something. The same arguments are being used worldwide. Our president has already sat in meetings and planned the vaccination passports. He told us months ago about this. I don't know why people are surprised now. He told us a long time ago that he will never force vaccinations on anyone. He will just mandate them. You're not going to be forced to get vaccinated. You are going to be treated like a pariah, like some treasonous person in your country, like some bottom feeder. That is how you're going to be treated. And the first thing I want to tell you people is that this is not going to improve if we just sit back and do nothing. We need to keep on organizing on the ground. We need to keep on meeting with each other as much as we can. This is important. And do not get distracted and do not get subverted by people that tell you that the law and the Constitution will protect you. We will test that in the High Court. We will test that in the Constitutional Court. And once again, support Reino de Beer in his actions to do that. Because what everyone else is doing at this stage, that is trying to catch the limelight, is just that. Our laws are not on our side. And once these cases have gone to court, you will see plain and simply why we are fighting the fight of our lives right now if we want to remain free. And the people that think that this wasn't going to happen, I feel sorry for them. It must be a real shock to many people, because now the people that do go and vaccinate themselves, the day they have to take the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and then other vaccines, because new pathogens will be released, will start to realize, but there's something wrong here. That this was never going to go away. That the next thing, I don't only have a vaccine passport, but now I have a health passport. I actually have a digital ID. Very soon people are going to ask me to chip myself. Very soon people are going to ask me to not live the life I'm living anymore, but to live in smart cities where everything is monitored, tracked, and traced. And very soon, the life that you thought that you could live with your grandkids, with your children one day, does not exist anymore. And very soon your child will come to you and say, Mama, Papa, Daddy, Mommy, whatever, and say, we don't like what you think or believe, because my teacher told me in school that you should be vaccinated, and I'm going to be vaccinated. I'm older than 12. You can't make that decision for me. People, what have we done? What have we done to ourselves? We were so caught up in consumerism and keeping up with the Joneses and many other things that we have allowed this to happen to ourselves. And it's really sad. And the good news that I want to leave you with is that there are a majority of South Africans right now at this stage that don't want this. Let's keep it that way. Thank you very much for joining this live stream. Please share it with your friends and family. Like this video. This is for the open public, so you can share it with anyone as far as you want, and make sure that as many people as possible understand the situation we find ourselves in. If you go on this channel and you go to the Moments in Time and Question Everything series, you will understand what this channel is about if you are new here. And then you will understand why I took a more than a year-long tour with my family, had more than 300 meetings, visited with thousands of people across the country face to face to tell them what is happening. Many of these people chose to take action. And this is really wonderful to see how they've progressed, how they've helped to make themselves self-reliant so that they are in a freer position today through their own actions. Because in the end, when we decide that things will happen a certain way, when we, the people, decide what we want, we are the government. Because under this current system, we are nothing. We are just subjects to a system that have been planned since the late 1700s and is being implemented in our lives right now. So if you want to think that you can continue your normal consumerist way and live that life, you will become a part of this plan. You will introduce the plan, you will live the plan, and soon your children will have zero freedom, and in future they will cease to exist. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please share it with your friends and family. Have a good evening.